All righty. Whew. All right.
Sorry, today came quick.
Yes, that kind of snuck up on us. All right. Let's see if people are gonna join here. We'll give it a second. I know we're at 10:01, but I'm just gonna get sorted on my end as well.
We almost forget our special graphics. I had to run back and get it, so sorry.
I can't forget
that. I am so out of breath right now.
We have a big office. No,
it was all the way down the hallway.
Yeah.
That sounds so bad. Okay.
Okay. So.
All right. Well, should we get started? We don't
have
first.
to really check in, but okay, great. We've got some people here. So thank you everyone for joining us. This is again another month of the Glove Lab. And today is, we're talking all about the glove safety gap and Delta Zero and kind of what that means. So thank you for joining us. This will be a good one. It's going to be informative to say the least. So our goal is to make this casual. Please ask any questions. We have some questions that we've gotten beforehand that we'll answer at the end, but just interrupt, chat, do whatever you want to do, and we will have a conversation with you. So we like to start off with a random question. And this question is, summer's coming up. So what are you most excited about? This is for you as well. Please answer.
I'm excited to see what people are excited for. Excited. I gotta say, for me, I love camping and hiking. God, I love a good barbecue. Mm-hmm. So like the sunshine, being outside and eating.
Yes. I agree with all of that. I am very excited for summer to swim again.
Oh, nice.
In the lake.
The water.
Yeah. We're in Tahoe. If you guys didn't know this, we're very lucky, to say the least.
We are lucky, but the water is really nice, like the end of July. It's really cold right now.
Yeah, very
cold.
It is
very cold. So
yeah,
summer water is a treat.
But I'm very excited about barbecues too. The only thing about barbecues that kind of turned me off of them is if it's a long barbecue and food's been left out for a long time.
Oh, like out in the sunshine food.
Because of what we do. So
yeah, if it's left out too long, or like how about if they're making burgers and then you're like, they don't use a thermometer, so you don't know if they're cooking them all the way. And then it's one of those where barbecues can be a little creepy too.
Or if the alternative where you're eating like hockey pucks. Sorry, I don't mean to judge the people that graciously invite me to their barbecues.
Hey, but at least they're cooking that E. coli.
It's true. Yeah, we have no. No
it is funny when you think about food safety all the time that when you go into situations, there's some things that you think of that I don't think before this job would have ever crossed my mind ever.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting, but it's also a little freaky. So
yeah.
Okay, so today we have an interesting topic. Like I said, I think many of our viewers probably don't know a lot about it. So unless you're reading FDA, literature on your free time.
Nerds.
Yeah.
If you're nerds like us and you read the FDA regulations,
right.
It may not have come across your radar.
Maybe you should also be talking to us more often then, because we'd be friends.
We should hang out.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about what we call the glove safety gap. And then we'll finish with diving into our proprietary glove testing program, which is Delta Zero. And we have talked about that before. It's very important. And so we got a lot to talk about today. So let's get started.
All right. So first, let's kind of set the stage. Let me get my coffee out of the way so I don't smash that everywhere. All right. So we're going to talk about the glove safety gap. And in one sentence, I would say when it comes to gloves, this is where the FDA's regulations and what they require food companies to use in gloves, and then what they require the glove suppliers to bring into the country, they actually don't line up.
Doesn't match.
So that's where we get the gap, as we call it, in glove safety. And this is kind of, the FDA has a huge job. I just want to give full props. They have a huge job. There is a lot to monitor, a lot to test, a lot to look after, and things like that. So that's where there is a gap in this food safety, and we see it as something, but this is where we feel like business should step up and help fill in these gaps, and we can all do better together, not just rely on the one company the one agency to do everything for us. We need to do things better, and when we can do that. But basically, when it comes to the glove safety gap, no one is making sure that the gloves on the shelf have been tested and meet the requirements of the gloves that food companies are supposed to be using. And that is where
that's the problem.
We want to help.
Yes. So, and you can obviously see how this is a problem. And one that maybe people don't think about just because it isn't something that a lot of people, I guess, realize. So it's flying under the food safety radar, if you will. And why don't, okay, great. We got some great comments. So why don't we explain the two sides, Sarah?
Okay. So on one side, we got our graphics partner, our department involved here. So on one side, we have, can you see that? There we go. Okay. We have the FDA's requirements for a glove to be labeled FDA compliant for food handling. They test for the chemical content and the chemical migration. And this is what the FDA requires from the side of the box to be FDA compliant for food handling. It's not FDA approved, it's FDA compliant.
Right.
So the FDA says it needs to do these two things, the glove does these two things, and it's FDA compliant. Manufacturers, to get this on the side of the box, have to test, sorry, my tongue got a thick tongue today. They have to pass these tests once, and then nobody officially validates these tests. They don't retest. When the gloves are imported to the US, nobody rechecks. So it's kind of that one-off test that the factory does at the factory. They do their own testing, and then they send in the right certificates, and they get the FDA compliant?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that since there's no follow-up checks with it and nobody's testing when it's imported, it really leaves kind of a loose loophole that if a factory wanted to cut corners and make a cheaper glove, they would have the ability to change the ingredients. They could add cheaper chemicals in there that would affect the performance of it.
Right.
They could change things about the glove. And when they're changing things like this, they can add chemicals that could have some toxins in them. There could be microbial content, some fungal things like that. So there's a lot of, once the glove starts changing and there's nobody validating that the gloves are what we say they are and they maintain that same level of consistent quality, it really is kind of a loophole there that we think needs to be tightened.
Right.
I think is the right word to say.
Right.
So currently there's a lot of trust that is inherently built into the glove industry. And trust is not a bad thing. Trust is something that you need to do business with somebody, but then there's also good business practices of validating and verifying what somebody else is doing, or just ways of checking. It's just a good business practice.
Yeah. And we got a comment that said only once. That's kind of crazy. And we agree, clearly.
It is. It's like
what?
I guess you graduate, you get that degree and no one really checks again, huh? It's kind of like that.
One driver's test for the rest of your life. It's the same thing.
Right.
So then there's the other side of the story that is, falls into this as well, which is the FDA's good manufacturing practices. And that food processing companies are supposed to follow. So then they have to follow these kind of, regulations, but they're different.
It is. So we have our second graphic of the day. For our good manufacturing practices, also called the GMP, it says that the gloves used in food handling need to be intact, clean, and sanitary.
Right.
And they should be made of an impermeable material, which is a good word. So the gloves should be clean, sanitary, and not have holes in them, which really seems like a good rule. So this is what food companies are told to operate by, which is fantastic. We completely agree. This is a good rule. Everybody should be following it. It's great.
Yes. And I think you can see how this isn't lining up. Just in terms of, food processing companies are supposed to use the gloves that are clean, intact, and sanitary and, without holes, all these things. But no one is checking disposable gloves being imported into the country after that initial check to make sure that they are clean and without holes and intact and sanitary and all that. So that's kind of a bummer.
Yes. And that is a hell of a lead-in.
Yep.
So you're correct. There is a gap right now in food safety, but it's not all doom and gloom. So we have an answer for it. And I would like, drum roll, please. So the answer is we have a proprietary glove testing program. It's our Delta Zero glove testing program. We're really proud of it. I think it started in 2019. We started the process of it. It's patent pending, which is exciting. And so I think it's going to be great to help close up this glove safety gap.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to say it, is like there's a gap there. It's not necessarily saying that people are malicious on any part of it,
No.
but we have these rules, we have these, and there's so much going on, and food processing is really a huge industry. There's so much to monitor. There's so many things there. And that's where we're just noticing that these two requirements don't quite line up.
Right.
We think that there should be more requirements on the glove manufacturers, the glove suppliers, and the people importing gloves to prove the quality, prove the cleanliness, that kind of a thing on the import. So the gloves on the shelf are the ones that are required by good manufacturing practices,
Right.
which is a good rule. So it's one of those where I don't think we're like changing the world and having some outlandish ideas here.
No.
It's like making sure that gloves are clean, sanitary, and intact. So when a company buys them, they get gloves that are clean, sanitary, and intact. I don't think is like that far out there. I feel like this is something that already should be happening.
Right. And I think if you distill it down, the end of the day, all of these regulations are there to protect people. So it is about people. It's about like us and what we want to be eating and ingesting, essentially. And you don't want to be eating things that are contaminated.
Right?
Yeah. I don't.
I mean, if the glove is contaminated and then they make my food and I eat it, I'm eating everything that was on that glove. So I don't think it's that outlandish to think that we should get gloves that doesn't have things on it I don't want to eat.
Right. Yeah, I'd rather not. And so like Sarah said, the Delta Zero is patent pending. And so, we're hoping here it gets, I don't know how it works, but getting filed and decently soon here. So there was 5 years of research that went into the development of Delta Zero. And that's working with a microbiologist to develop, the testing and all of that. So maybe we should go over those like maybe in a bit more detail at another live stream. I think that could be good if people are interested.
Yeah, this was, there was a lot of science done, not by us. We are not the scientists or the lawyers.
No, we are not.
But there was a lot of science done. A lot of things that came out in the research were kind of, some were expected and some were kind of shocking. We were like, oh shit, like this is like something we need to pay attention to. All the research has been published in the Journal of Food Protection. The link is on our website if you want.
Oh yeah.
A heck of a read. It is good, but it is a lot to digest. So on our website, we also have a white paper that we tried to simplify and pick out kind of the important points that are most relevant to make it a little bit easier to digest. Ours is only 4 pages and there's a couple graphics, so it's easier to read.
Exciting.
So if you wanted to put the links in for that, they're both wonderful information. When it comes to food safety, I think we can all learn a lot. We can all keep learning. And this was new, even to us in the glove world, some of these things that we didn't know before. So if you wanted to look into that and read and learn a little bit more, you can dive into that. If it's something that you don't have time for, we have the white paper. If it's something where you're even more stressed for time, I mean, if you call and chat with one of us, we can get right to the point. We can answer your questions, that kind of thing. We want to help.
Yeah. And I just put the white paper and the Journal of Food Protection link in the chat for anyone who is curious. But we will, I think, go over, more of Delta Zero and all these things too. So.
Yeah, we would recommend that you would start with the white paper, scan it over, see if it's something that's you think would be impactful to what you do, because I really think it would be. And then if you wanted to full dive in, there's also the journal, which I think is a solid 37 pages or something like that of a lot of data. It's a lot of data. And but when you read it, it's kind of one of those where it's the holy cow, we got to do something to fix this.
Kind of freaks you out.
So this is good. So why don't we get into our Delta Zero, because that's kind of the answer. But we feel like it's a really good solution to the existing environment of gloves out there, and that was tested, and that was the results in the research. I think it'd be fantastic to do a live stream about it, because I think there are some things where, like when we found feces on gloves and things like that, where there's like Listeria and E. coli. I mean, there's some things where you're like, holy cow. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe we can jump into that. But in the meantime, we have an easy solution where if you get the gloves that we have tested, we feel like it really helps bridge this gap. So what we have is Delta Zero. It's a multi-layered system, and we call it multi-layered because we do a lot of different tests. I think there's about 8 or 9 tests that we do, and they test kind of in 4 different categories. And so between the tests, we get the different results and they overlap and things like that. So that's why we call it multi-layered. And of the 4 things that we test of those 4 categories, the first one is safe ingredients. And this guarantees that our gloves are a premium quality and they're going to be very consistent in performance and that there's no harmful toxins in the glove.
Right.
So we test the gloves to make sure that the ingredients are the ingredients they're supposed to be. So the recipe hasn't been changed.
Right.
They're the high quality ingredients that we spec and that they're supposed to be in there. There's nothing else that's going to be harmful, nothing that's going to affect the glove in a negative way or the wearer, that kind of a thing. So we make sure the ingredients are the exact same. And what that means for you is that it's going to be a consistent glove. If you get an Eagle glove, the next box of gloves will be the exact same thing and you'll get the exact same performance, the exact same glove every single time. They'll fit the same, they'll work the same, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, and then second on our Delta Zero is cleanliness. So that's what we've talked about. And it's really important, but this ensures that there's no harmful microbial contamination on your gloves. So, and we also test, this is important as well, the inside and the outside of our gloves against fungal and or microbial contaminants that can pose a threat.
Not to interrupt. When a glove is made, I think we've kind of touched before.
We have
a former. It's like a ceramic looking
It's
hand.
really interesting.
And then when it goes in, it gets dipped in the nitrile, and then the nitrile is on the former. And then when you make the glove, you actually take the glove off the former by reversing it. So everything, when we talk about that dirty water and stuff that happens during contamination, it's on the inside of the glove. And then when they're washed, it's on the outside of the glove. So testing both the inside and the outside of the glove, it's very important.
Right.
And we find some companies that are testing their gloves. It's fantastic. We love that people are taking that extra step. But we really highly recommend testing the inside and the outside. Right.
Yes. And we'll talk about what that can mean if gloves rip and all the good things. So, but you definitely want to make sure that you're testing for the microbial contaminants because that could pose a threat to the person wearing the glove and the product that's being handled.
Very true. And the third thing that we test is the structural integrity of the glove. And this is kind of a 2-part thing. For structural integrity, first we have the gloves have to work, right? They can't be ripping all of the time. So we're going to test them for the durability and for the performance, their strength, that kind of a thing, to make sure that the glove works how the glove is, that you expect the glove to work. And we don't want any of that to change. And that helps with the consistent product that you're going to be buying so you can trust it. And then also, one of our gloves, kind of the second part of that with structural integrity is what it's the name of it. It's the AQL, which is the acceptable quality level of a glove. And this is actually the pinhole defects that are acceptable to be in that box of gloves.
Right.
So if you can think of a pinhole is not ideal because bacteria can go through the pinhole. So if you have the pinhole defects, it could be possible for bacteria to go through this hole and contaminate what you're working on. And so it's important to minimize these. All Eagle Protect nitrile gloves have an AQL of 1.5, which means that there is 1.5 gloves, so 1.5 gloves that have a pinhole defect in them per 100 gloves. And so this is our acceptable quality level.
Right.
And just to put it in perspective, a medical grade glove is required to have a 2.5. Mm-hmm. So they can have 2.5 gloves. So our gloves are actually a more stringent standard than what is required for a medical glove. And this is something that we feel like is necessary just to make sure that, to minimize the possibility of contamination and things like that. It is just something that we feel like we need to do. Mm-hmm. And then a fun fact about this is a way that companies can make gloves cheaper. I don't know if it's as fun as maybe bad, but the way that companies can make a glove cheaper. Let's say I have a glove, I sell you a glove. It is a blue nitrile glove, 4 mil, and it has an AQL of 3. Let's say I have an AQL of 3, which is average, right? So then I sell you a glove. It is a blue 4 mil nitrile glove. I think I got the exact same glove I got before. But in fact, if a company wants to make a glove cheaper, for instance, right now we're in the middle of tariffs and that kind of a thing where there are going to be some people being encouraged to make gloves cheaper.
Potentially cutting corners.
They could raise that AQL. And let's say I have an AQL then of 5. Mm-hmm. When I get that 4 mil blue nitrile glove, it's going to look exactly like the last glove I bought. I'm going to think it's the exact same thing and nothing's been changed. Right. But in fact, they could have loosened their quality standards. And now there's more gloves in the box that have holes. And that is a way for them to not be wasting as many gloves and using those defective gloves and selling them to you and saving money. And you would not know the difference because AQL is not required to be on the box for food grade gloves. It is for medical, but not for food. So actually food companies would have no idea if this is changing. And that's part of the loophole we feel like needs to be changed.
Yeah. That's a great, scary fun fact, Sarah.
Sorry, that was zero fun. Zero fun fact at all.
Okay, so we just got a question. Thank you guys again for chatting with us. It's so great. Okay, yeah, I was just about to say, I hope that answered your question. Is there any way for a consumer to know this? And yeah, that not with food grade. So
it's not required, but like our gloves, if you look on the side of the box, we have our AQL listed. Yeah. It is on our spec sheet. It is on our gloves. Some other companies do this as well. We think it should be a requirement. You should know what you're buying and you should know the level of holes that are going to be in the box. It's like you need to know what's in there because there's some gloves out there that are like an AQL of 5 or 7. And I mean, that's a huge percentage. I mean, it's just like that quality, the quality processes just aren't there if they're just putting every single glove that's made in the box. So some companies do have it on side of the box. Ours do. Medical is legally required to be on there, but food grade is if the company wants to put it on there.
And I have to say as well that it's these are gloves and it is hard to know what you need to look for. So that is the point of why we talk about all of this because, you know, it's not necessarily talked about. So it's important and it's good to chat. So last but not least, dermal compatibility. The gloves are tested for a wide variety of chemicals and toxic exposure, essentially, that could result in dermal or systemic toxicity. So that ensures against skin irritation and occupational skin disease, which can be a problem for a lot of people and workers who are wearing gloves for longer periods of time, especially every day. So basically testing to make sure that there are no pesticides or harmful chemicals or toxins that are on the gloves that are going to affect workers' ability to do their job.
Okay. I don't know about everybody else, but I feel like lately it's like everything. They're coming for everything. They're coming for my chocolates. They're telling me they have heavy metals in them. And it's like, I can't have my chocolates anymore. And I only eat those every once in a while for a treat. Can you imagine having something like this on your gloves and you do it every single day, all day, and your skin absorbs everything? That's where like your lotion absorbs everything. And it's like having pesticides and chemicals on the gloves and stuff. It's not a joke. It's you're going to be just absorbing it in like your old pesticide lotion, which is pretty gross.
Pesticide lotion. We should start calling that, right?
Coming soon.
Yeah. Enjoy. But this is so true. And it's a really big deal, we think. You know, I think that affects people on a daily basis. And that's, you know, that can be harmful. And that is why you need to buy Eagle Protect's Delta Zero gloves. Shameless plug. Mm-hmm. It's just super important for people to know what you can and can maybe mitigate with glove issues. So we try to do our best to help with that. And we test a range of gloves within this program to verify that they're the highest levels of safety and performance, like we've gone over, and they should be. So you should expect that from your gloves. It's meant to give companies confidence that they receive the exact same glove every single time they order. And we're actually testing that nothing has changed instead of, you know, what's changed or whatever, because we want to make sure that the quality is consistent over time. Mm-hmm. And you get the same thing that you can expect from us.
Yeah. If we have to adjust pricing, we adjust pricing. We do not adjust the quality of our gloves. We do not sacrifice. We don't compromise. Mm-hmm. So there are times where the prices are going to flux, but you get what you are buying. It is not something where we're going to try to undercut you and sell you something cheaper.
Yes, exactly. So,
all right. And I think we should also explain that right now we test a range of our gloves. Mm-hmm. And so we have our 2.6, which is our fine tough, up to our 5 mil, which is the blue 52s. Right now, those are the gloves that are Delta Zero verified. Mm-hmm. So when they come in, we send them to our third-party labs and they test those. We are looking to expand it to the entire range of our gloves as we grow. So that will be exciting when we get to that point and get to test more of our gloves.
That'll be fun.
But just so everybody knows why we picked those gloves, in the food industry, the thinner gloves are the gloves that are used when they make ready-to-eat foods. Mm-hmm. And if you're not familiar with this is something where they make the food and I instantly eat it. I guess not instantly, not like I'm just shoving it in my face.
Shoved in face.
So I don't have a kill step in between. I don't cook the food. The food isn't heated. There's no way for those microbes to be killed off before I'm eating them.
Yeah.
And this is just really important for the gloves not to have anything on them. Because if you think of it, let's say they're rolling my sushi or they're making my sandwich, I'm just going to eat it. So if there's anything on the gloves that's transferring to the food, I'm going to be ingesting it. Yeah. And we started with those gloves because we just feel like that is the most direct way we can make the biggest impact. So we started with the foods that could be involved with ready to eat items. And then we're expanding up the line to the thicker gloves.
Yeah. And this is extremely important for ready to eat food, produce and other industries, that don't have that kill step. So,
they don't cook my spinach before they put it in the salad. So.
Exactly. So if there's contamination on your gloves, or if your glove rips, like the microbes from your glove juice, which is for lack of a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
It's like when the hand sweat gets on your food and people are eating it, it gets a little messy. So it's a huge food safety risk, and it's a pretty simple way to mitigate it. So
just simply speccing and buying a different product closes up this glove safety gap.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of things that you can let us think about, and you don't have to.
Yeah.
So
that's all the information we have for you. Thank you for all, contributing in the chat. This is great. We will get to these questions. We have some questions that we have, prepped, but we can look through here first. I think that we have one about our fine tough gloves. Okay, so I don't think we have small fine toughs with us. We have our mediums, but they all look the same. And if they're going to fit you different than they're going to fit us, that's like an important thing to note as well.
Because, we did have a question somebody asked on LinkedIn about the fit of a glove.
Yeah. So it's my company buys one size of gloves for everyone to use. Is glove size and fit really that important? So this will explain sort of what you were asking.
Yes, I would say yes. There's definitely a level of personal preference built in, and then what you're using the glove for. But as a rule of thumb, you cannot buy the same glove for everybody, because both of us are them big ham girls.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be using the same size of gloves for everybody. They should fit. And if a glove is too small, you're going to have limited dexterity. It's going to be really tight. You can actually get muscle and joint and cramps, and you can actually injure your hand by having too much stress in your hand. If it's too tight, every time you move your finger, there's more stress, that kind of a thing. If the glove is too loose, and the glove is too big, you can have extra components, extra ends that if you're cutting something, it could get caught in a machine, you can snag, and then it's more likely to rip and for you to get chunks in the food.
Right.
So it is important for you to have a glove that fits. But that being said, depending on what you're using the glove for, people do have different preferences, where if you're doing something that is very fine and intricate, you may want a glove that is a little bit tighter fitting. So there is a little personal preference in there, where if you just really can't stand having tight gloves, you may have one that is a little bit looser. You just don't want it to be like loose and baggy and have excess material.
Okay. And then we did get a follow-up of like, do you have a essentially, do you have a small there in any color type? Unfortunately, it wouldn't really matter if we did, because when you put on a glove, it'll be different than when we put on a glove. So we can, work with you if you want.
It depends on what fits you guys.
Yeah. So, because for me, I use a large, medium, large. And so if I were to put on a small, it wouldn't necessarily be a great demonstration of how you want a glove to fit. But if there's anything that you want, like if you want to message us and you want to sample anything for your company or anything like that, then we can totally help you out. Yeah.
Fit of the glove matters, just because sometimes it's like some people have longer fingers, some people have a bigger palm, that kind of a thing. So I'm a medium, she's a large, but if you put our hands next to each other, they look similar in size, and that's where you have to find what fits for you.
Right. Okay. So, the other question we got here is, how can you check the durability of the Delta Zero sensitive 4mm nitrile exam gloves? That's actually a good question.
That is a good question. Okay, so
we can open one.
Oh, you guys are gonna make me move. Hold on. Let me get my big butt out of the chair here. What do we got? So let's do the visibles. I'm sorry, I don't have my size of the sensitives here, but I'll use the visibles.
Yeah, I don't think we have a sensitive here. which is fine.
We tried to get our assortment of colors, so it looks cute.
Yes. Yeah.
Because cute is what matters, right?
Yes. But so a good thing to note about this is checking the durability of gloves can be a similar process. So even if we're not using the sensitives, you can apply this to that glove.
So when you put on a glove, there are kind of ways that where there's places in the glove where they're more likely to rip. So if you were testing the glove, I probably shouldn't pick the visible one, but okay. So a lot of times the end of the glove on the finger is going to be where it snags, it catches, it's ripped, it's cut, that kind of a thing. So when you're pulling on the glove and you put it on, you stretch the glove, that kind of thing. It's a really good place to test durability there. Also in the palm, just pulling on the glove, you can kind of see how much it stretches, if it's degrading, if it's ripping, if it's changing, or on the cuff of the glove. You want to pull, it should be not pulling off and being in the other hand. It should stay on the one hand. So it should stay in one piece. So that's a way to check the durability of the glove. We also have the video about checking the quality of the glove. Maybe you can put the inflation test video in there. Yeah. But there is a way to do the inflation test. And this is a little bit more the quality of the materials used to make the glove. And it explains it a little bit in more detail. So it's not necessarily the durability, but as we talked before, the durability of the glove and the quality of the glove really go together. But in general, those are the 3 places in the glove that I would check. And then there's also the inflation test that Ashley's going to toss up the link there pretty soon.
Okay, here we go.
We do not have any size smallest gloves with me because I do not wear a small. So
yeah, but if you want to try anything, and if you do have similar size hands to us, then you probably wouldn't be a small as well. So if you,
and we do commercial trials for companies if that's something that we do. Otherwise, it's your personal preference of finding the glove that fits. And every glove fits a little bit different just because of the former that's used to make it.
Right.
So they're not going to be all the exact same. Like I have gloves that are more comfortable for me to wear just because they mimic more of the shape of my hand and things like that. So does anybody have any other questions? Otherwise, we did get another one on LinkedIn beforehand, and this kind of wraps up. I hope we've covered this before. They say, how can I tell if a glove is safe to use with food? And this is a very good one. On the side of the box, it's going to say compliant for food handling. And those are what we're going to consider food grade gloves. But like we covered before, it's compliant. It is not approved. So the FDA did not check it. They didn't test it, anything like that. So that's where we recommend you doing your due diligence and getting a glove that has been tested to make sure it is safer to use with food. But if you go for the whole regular industry, they're going to say, as long as it says compliant on the side of the box, it's good to go. Legally, those are the gloves. As long as you have that glove and it is FDA compliant, you can use them, but we recommend going a step further than that.
Yeah. And for some reason, I got signed out of the chat. So I sent it to you and potentially you could put that link in the chat. Apologies. Technical difficulties on my end.
Hey, that's all right. We'll fire her later.
Yeah. Great. You won't see me next month. So just enjoy.
While we got people here, is there anything that you guys want to, if you guys have ideas for, that's the inflation test link. If you guys have ideas for things that you want us to cover or talk about, like things, questions about gloves, that kind of a thing, pop those in and let us know too, because otherwise it's just us brainstorming things that we can talk about, that we talk about every day, and you might have better ideas than we do, which is highly likely.
We're always open to suggestions, so we appreciate you guys chatting with us and putting in the effort to be here. So we appreciate it. Again, our goal is to do this once a month. Okay, so we're getting a lot of white ones questions. But you know what I think would be great? If you message us if you even just email us at sales@EagleProtect or info@EagleProtect, or go to any of our channels, we can then, if you want, we can, figure out a trial for you. And that again, will be the easiest way for you to see those up close and personal. And that'll be great. So just message us independently and then we'll get that sorted for you. I'm excited that you're, enthusiastic about it. So that's great. Again, our goal is to do this once a month, and our next one is Wednesday, May 7th. So we're going to be talking about what we chatted, I think, about earlier. So Delta Zero, a little bit more specifics on that one, our specific range of gloves. So we will be showing those gloves and what this looks like.
So next month, we're actually going to go through the gloves, kind of talk a little bit about them, what they're used for, who uses them, that kind of thing. They're different. gloves all look the same, honestly.
They
So it's
do.
kind of like, why are they different? Why they're better for something. So we'll deep dive a little bit into the actual glove line themselves. So it'll be the 2.6 to the 5s we'll be going over, and then we'll dive into the thicker ones.
Yeah. Okay, so make sure you hit subscribe. We appreciate you all being here, and we will see you next time.
All right. See you guys.
Bye, everyone.